going to be changing the inner and outer tie rods today on the 4Runner. Thought I'd make a video on how to show this, being a lot of people haven't really shared this for the 5th gen 4Runner. This does apply for 2014 and up. I'm not sure if this works for the 2013s and earlier as far as part numbers go. FJ Cruisers as well, so check your part numbers. May need different depending on which one you're going with. This is the boot and boot clamps for the front and rear of this boot that you'll need from Toyota. This is the OEM part number. This is the inner tie rod number right here that you will need. I did choose to go with the Moog or Moog, however you want to say this, outer tie rod, just because they're serviceable. You can pump these up with grease. The outer is from Toyota. You just have to straight up replace. So that's up to you. But if you want to go that route, this is the part number you need as well for that. Otherwise, you will need either a specialty tool, such as this one. Basically, you just put a crow's foot in there, locks it in. You can see the crow's foot there. To basically get around that section there to lock it in. There are no washers on these. I know there's a lot of lock washers on a lot of inner tie rods, but for whatever reason, Toyota does not use them. So 57 foot-pounds of torque. If you're looking at the repair manual, there's 2 numbers. It's 57 to get this in tight. I do recommend using some Loctite. Only blue, do not use red. Red you have to heat up and remove. It's a pain. This you will not. This will just help prevent it from shaking loose. Even though proper torque, it shouldn't have to worry about that. I do a lot of off-roading. I'm just doing this to be extra safe. A little bit of penetrating fluid to help get out the outer tie rod. You may want a boot separator. I do have one of those that I'll be using, or excuse me, a tie rod, outer tie rod, to knock it out. You can use a hammer, technically. You may want to use something to spread out that knocking, dead blow, whatever you need to get that out. Obviously, you'll see that later. And that's pretty much all you'll pretty much need.
And that's how you do that.
So the alignment shop said the inners and outers were okay. That does not look okay to me. Leaking grease, flat, not to mention it should not move like that. Not at all. The thing to keep in mind is this adjustment nut here. You need it to go this way. You want it to go opposite of lefty loosey, righty tighty, because the outer tie rod end goes on that way. So this one will go to the right. Do not turn to the left, you're just tightening it. If you have any issues like I did, just make sure you have some of that. You'll get it off with no problem. Highly recommend having it, because when you're using your tie rod tools to get this piece out, it's just gonna completely pop it off. All right, so this is probably the most important part of this whole thing. You have to get an alignment after you do this whole thing. Doesn't matter how accurate you think you are, you must get an alignment. With that said, once you get this loose, kind of just thread it back down to a little bit of tightness. Doesn't have to be 100%, just a little bit, so you know how many turns from this bolt or nut you need to tighten on. So one full turn is going from here the whole way around. So for instance, this is one turn. Make sure you hold this in case your inner tie rod is shot, and then however many you do, make sure you count it, because this side is going to be different from your driver's side, and then you're going to thread that back on the same amount, and then you're going to tighten this down. You turn the steering on, turn it the whole way driver. That'll make it easier getting all this, the boot off and everything. You gotta hook these connections as you saw, but you gotta put this on first because it won't fit sliding over. But it will fall off back that way, so you kind of have to pull towards you to keep it on. It's a pain. Add a little Loctite, not necessary, but just peace of mind. Blue, not red. Blue will break by hand, red will not. And then you just torque it down to 57 foot-pounds, and that's it. You theoretically want to probably hold something on the power steering rack there, but I like playing with fire. Earlier I said if you're going to take these off, obviously count how many times you took them off turn-wise. One complete turn. This side takes 17. If you're using any aftermarket outer tie rods, make sure you grease them up if they need it, because the majority of them do not come greased. And or turn your wheel back in before you connect the backside of the boot with either a clip or a zip tie. It's just easier that way, otherwise you gotta stretch the boot out entirely. And just tighten down the castle nut. I'm not too sure about the torque spec on this. I read 67, so that's what I'm doing, but I would recommend trying to find it more accurately. But 67 hasn't failed me in the past, so hopefully that keeps going.